Yo, what's good, everybody? It's Austin here, or Luna. So sorry if I sound stuffy. I don't know if it's allergies or like I'm getting sick for the 400th time, but for some reason I'm stuffy today. But I was reading the comments on my video the other day, and everybody wanted a part two to the story time I just told. If you haven't seen that first one yet, I will put it first link in the description. But basically, yeah, I talked about at the end of that story that I ended up meeting up with that girl years later, and something else kind of happened, and I want to tell you guys about it today, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. So leave a like on the video if you do, and let's jump into it. So, today's story time all takes place when I was 18 years old. The first month I moved to LA. I'm pretty sure it was in the month of March, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was March or April. And I just moved into this house. I was with a couple friends, and we were having a great time. I was living it up. I was enjoying life. Things were great. Now, about 2 weeks into moving to LA, my friend Luke hits me up, and he's like, "Yo, Austin, what are you doing tonight?" I was like, "Not much. What about you?" He's like, "Well, I'm actually going to this club. It's a pretty cool spot. You should come with me. Maybe you'll meet some new friends." And he was just trying to kind of put me out there. He wanted me to like go meet some new people in LA and make some new friends. So yeah, Luke was nice enough to invite me out to this club with him. Now, I'm not really the clubbing type. Like, I'll go out occasionally with friends, but it's very, very rare to go to like a bar or a club for me. Sometimes, like I said, but not often. But it was my first month living in a different state. I didn't have tons of friends in LA yet, so I was down for it. I was like, "Yeah, man, I'll go there." He's like, "All right, bet. I'll pick you up in like 2 hours." I'm like, "All right, sounds good." So I take a shower, I get ready, I get dressed, I wear a nice outfit. Because, like, I don't know who I'm going to meet. I can meet a new friend, I can meet a girl, like, who knows, right? So I get dressed and get looking as nice as possible. And a couple hours later, my friend came over, picked me up, and we go to this club together. Now, like 5 minutes after pulling up to this club, I already wanted to leave. I literally was like, okay, this is not the vibe. It's loud. I can't hear anyone talking. Like, I don't even drink like that, so I'm not even having that good of a time. Like, I'm kind of in a bummer mood, right? Like, I was literally about to leave 10 minutes in. And Luke's like, "Nah, man, like, come on, give it a chance. You haven't even been here for a while. Like, give it a little bit of a chance first." And he convinced me to stay. Now, about 30 minutes into being there, Luke brings me over to this group of people that he knows. And he's like, "Yo, guys, this is my homie Austin. Like, Austin, this is my friends." And he, like, introduces me to them. And one of them looks really familiar. Like, stupid familiar. She looks just like one of my exes from high school, the same ex from the last story time, but a little bit different. Like, I don't know, her makeup looked different. There was also flashing lights, and we were in a dark room, so it was pretty hard to see each other's faces. So I just figured it was a girl that looked kind of like my ex, right? That's all I thought. Now, later on in the night, I asked Luke. I was like, "Yo, how do you know those people?" Because for some reason he didn't tell me when he introduced me to them, like how he knew them. He's like, "Oh, I work with them." Now, Luke had been living in LA for years prior before I moved there. I knew Luke online through Skype and gaming and stuff. So, like, when I moved there, he had been there for years, and he had, like, established friends and shit. And he's like, "Yeah, I work with all them. They're editors." So, yeah, Luke used to edit shows and would also edit for, like, YouTubers and shit. And, yeah, I guess the guys and the girls that he introduced me to were also editors for the same company Luke was with. So that was cool, right, to meet them and kind of see who Luke was working with. And I asked them, I was like, "What about that one girl? She was wearing, like, a red hoodie. I didn't really catch her name because it was loud." And he's like, "Oh, you mean Alexis?" And I was like, "Wait, what's her name?" He's like, "Alexis." Alexis was the same name as my ex. So not only did this girl look like her, but like same name, pretty crazy chances, right? And she moved to LA when we broke up, so I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is her. Like maybe this is actually her. And I was like, "Luke, do you know where she's from, like before she moved to LA?" He's like, "I don't know, I never asked her." I was like, "Bro, please go ask her, because like I need to know if it's the same girl I dated in high school." He's like, "Wait, you think you dated her?" I was like, "Yeah, I think I did." He's like, "Okay, I'll go ask her." And he walks away, and he comes back like 5 minutes later with Alexis. And he's like, "Alexis, this is Austin. You guys already met? Why don't you tell him where you're from?" And she says my hometown. And I was like, "No fucking way." And she goes, "I knew you looked familiar." And I was like, "Yo, we dated in high school." She's like, "I know, I remember. My dad almost killed you." And then we get to catching up and like talking and shit, and we're having a great time. Now, after that, I was having a great time. Like, I'm catching up with this girl. She's really cool. It's good to see her again. Things are going good, right? And the rest of that night was great. Except for one thing. Alexis got way too hammered, way too quick. Like, way too drunk. And it was probably a good hour or two after talking to her that she became so drunk she almost couldn't even walk, like she was stumbling around. And towards the end of the night, we find out that she drove there. She drove there with the intention to not even drink, and I guess she broke that rule and ended up drinking, and now she couldn't drive home, so we're trying to figure out how to get her home, right? So everybody walks outside, me, Luke, his friends that he works with, some other people that we met there, and everyone's starting to leave and go their separate ways. Luke went back to my house, his friends from work all start to leave, and pretty much nobody gives a fuck about Alexis, who needs to get home still, except for one person. We'll just call this person Sam. Sam also works with Alexis and Luke, and they work at the same company. Well, Sam walks over to us while we're sitting there outside the club, and Sam's like, yo, Alexis, you get a ride home yet? And Alexis is like, nah, I didn't. And I was like, yeah, everyone left, so I think I'm just going to call her an Uber. And Sam's like, nah, man, I got it. So Sam calls an Uber, and he puts it under Alexis's name, and 5 minutes later, this car pulls up, this big Escalade, and the window rolls down, and he's like, Uber for Alexis? And I was like, hey, Alexis, your Uber is here, let's go. And I help her get up, and I walk her over to the door. I open the back door. She gets in, and she's like, hey, Austin. I was like, yeah, what's up? She's like, can you come with me? And I was like, what? She's like, I don't want to ride in this Uber alone. Can you come with me just for the ride home? And I understood. Honestly, sometimes Uber drivers are creepy. Not all of them, obviously. I'm not saying they're all creepy. But sometimes, especially as a girl, it can be weird to ride in a car with a random guy. So I was like, okay, yeah, for sure. So I get in the car with her. I'm thinking, okay, we'll ride back to her apartment. I'll make sure she gets inside, and then I'll leave and go home, and we'll be fine. If it makes her feel better to have someone with her, I totally get it. So I get in this Uber, back of this Escalade with her. The Uber driver takes us to her house, and I realize quickly that it's a pretty big house in a pretty nice neighborhood. Way bigger than for one person, right? I thought she lived in an apartment or something at this point. But then when we get out of the Uber, and I'm walking her up to the front door, she drunkenly tells me that it's her parents' house. Meaning her dad and her mom live with her still. The same mom and dad from the last story time that don't like me at all. You remember the dad that tried to chase me and didn't like me very much? Yeah, that same dad. But as scary as it was and as shitty as that was, I knew that I wasn't going inside, so it was no big deal, right? I'd just make sure she'd get in the front door, and then I would turn around, call an Uber, and go home, right? I wouldn't even have to see her parents. But then, after she unlocks the front door and goes to walk into her house, she turns around and goes, Austin, come in. I'll get you a snack or something. And I was like, no, that's okay. I appreciate it, though. And she goes, no, I insist. You help me get home. I could at least get you a drink or something. I was like, no, it's really okay, Alexis. Just why don't you go to sleep? I'm going to go home. We can, hang out tomorrow or something if you want. Because, I had her number still. And she was like, no. Come in, please. I insist. And she's starting to, get attitude in her voice. Angry with me because I'm not going in her house to have a drink or have a snack, whatever she wanted to do. And she starts raising her voice. She's like, Austin, I'm not arguing with you. Come in, have a coffee with me, and then you can leave. And I was like, Alexis, tomorrow we can do that. Not now. Go inside, have a glass of water, and go to sleep. Because, not to sound mean, but, that's what she needed. She didn't need to stay up any longer and have coffee with me. She needed sleep and water. That's it. And that's all I was trying to say. And it made her even more mad. And she starts yelling. She's like, Austin, get the fuck inside. Stop being lame. And I'm getting worried, right? Because her parents are upstairs sleeping, and they're probably going to wake up from her yelling. So I'm freaking out inside, and I was like, Alexis, chill. She goes, come on, come hang out. And I was like, no, have a good night. And I turn around and I start walking away, right? And I hear the door close, and I turn around, and the door's closed, and she's inside. So I'm like, okay, good. Night's over. I can call an Uber and go home. So I call an Uber. I'm waiting there in her driveway, just waiting for this Uber. It's 2 minutes away. For some reason, the same guy didn't accept my Uber, so I could have gotten one way quicker, but I had to wait for some other one. And all of a sudden, I start hearing voices behind me. And I turn around, and the lights upstairs in the house, all the upstairs lights are on. And I see the outside light turn on right when I turn around. Meaning, somebody just flicked the switch to turn on the outdoor lights, and I see the front door start to open. And it is none other than the girl's dad, Alexis's dad, just staring at me, real confused, right? Because he can't really see me that well. He's looking at me through a window, and it's dark outside, and he opens the door, and he goes, excuse me, sir? And I reply, and I'm like, yeah? Real scared. And he goes, did you help my daughter get home? I was like, yeah, I did. He goes, oh, thank you so much. And he walks out with his hand out, and he shakes my hand. And as he looks me in the eye, he goes, you look real familiar. Have I met you before? Do you work with Alexis? I was like, nah, I don't. I just moved here. He goes, huh, you look just like someone she works with or something. And I was like, nah, that's not me. And he's like, well, thank you so much for getting her home safely. I really appreciate you. You're a good guy. And I was like, yeah, of course. He turns around and he walks away. And I actually almost shit myself throughout that whole process. And he goes to walk inside, and he opens the door to walk in. And I'm thinking I'm in the clear, right? I think it's over. I figured he didn't recognize me and that, like, he wouldn't recognize me at all. But then right as he's about to walk in the front door, right as he's about to go inside, and the night's about to be officially done and I'll be in the clear, he turns around and he points at me. And he goes, wait a minute, I didn't catch your name. What is it? I was like, Austin. He goes, where are you from? I was like, New York. He goes, oh yeah, so are we. What part? And I tell him, and he goes, huh, so are we. Wait a minute. Did you know Alexis when we used to live in New York? I was like, yeah, a little bit. He goes, I knew you looked familiar. Wait. And then his face changed. Like the minute he realized who I was, he goes, wait, Austin, New York. Oh, you were her ex-boyfriend from back in the day. And he starts getting a smile on his face, like a devious smile. And I was like, yep, that's me. He goes, huh, wow, crazy how, like, the world is so small. And I was like, yeah. And, like, the way he was talking was, like, villainous. Like, he was about to go on a villain arc or something. And he just starts laughing. And he's like, water under the bridge, man. And he comes over, shakes my hand again, turns around, walks inside, closes the door. And I was like, what? I seriously thought this guy was about to beat the shit out of me or something. But no, he says water under the bridge, shakes my hand, and just goes back inside. Like, I guess me doing a good deed for Alexis, like, wiped my slate clean and her dad wasn't mad at me anymore. But, like, crazy. This could have gone so much worse, but luckily it went perfect. Obviously, I was scared the whole time, but it could have gone a lot worse. So yeah, the next day I remember texting Alexis because she had the same number still. And I was like, yo, your dad? I thought he was going to beat my ass last night. And I told her what happened. And she was like, no, like, don't worry. Like, he wasn't going to hurt you. Like, it was a long time ago. And she was mad cool about it. And me and Alexis actually ended up hanging out later that day and got food together and just kind of caught up even more and, like, talked about what happened the night before and shit and how funny that was. And yeah, everything was good. Me and Alexis are still friends to this day. She's cool. Her dad actually likes me now. Like, he knows who I am and, like, he's seen me more than once since then and he's cool with me. So that's great. And yeah, moral of this story is time heals, I guess. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you guys all later. Peace.